Part 48. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 485. Master Zero Time, is there really no room for maneuver at this point? Oga Musashi understood the meaning of his words, but he still did not give up hope. Kurosawa Hikaru was extremely disgusted to see that he was still not giving up. Because of the culture of seniors and juniors, the Japanese style of acting according to the situation is quite disgusting. In front of seniors and strong people, they are servile and try their best to please. In front of juniors and weak people, they are arrogant and aggressive. In fact, even when he was in high school, he was low-key and buried his head in studying, because there were too many girls chasing him, and there were several seniors who wanted to make trouble for him. In other words, when he was in high school, his grades were always ranked first in the school, and he performed well, never absent, and was loved by all teachers. The leaders in the school all stood on his side, which was not something that a few seniors could control. Mr. Lingshi, we are here for sincere cooperation and have brought a sky-high contract worth tens of billions. Please stay. At this moment, Takeda Emma, who was standing by, saw that the time was right, stood up and walked over to express her attitude respectfully. She had been silent just now, and seeing the old pervert, the vice president, kicking the iron plate and kneeling down to beg for mercy, she really let out a breath of anger. However, she is one of the leaders of this project after all, and she is on the same boat with Oga Musashi. If the negotiation fails, she will inevitably be implicated. And the value of this contract is so high that it is simply jaw-dropping. You know, the entertainment industry in Japan is different from that in other countries, and the status of artists is very low. The vast majority of artists, whether male or female, must strive for a contract worth millions of yen. What's more, this is not millions, but tens of billions. Let alone artists, even big figures at the level of parliamentarians will be tempted. Sky-high contract. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her and examined her. A contract worth tens of billions sounds impressive, but this is Japanese yen. If it were US dollars, it would not be an exaggeration to say that this contract shocked the world. A cooperation worth tens of billions must be a good story that shocked the world. Takeda Emma nodded without any disgust in the face of his scrutiny. When she got closer, she realized that Mr. Zero Time's appearance was exactly the type she liked. As the proposer of this cooperation project, she herself is a fan of Zero Time. Now that she sees her idol so young and handsome, she is even more excited. Actually, I'm not interested in money. This alone is not enough to convince me. Perhaps this is the case for ordinary people, but Kurosawa Mitsuru looked down at her and was unmoved. As soon as this was said, everyone in the office was stunned. Haha, sorry, I just remembered a funny thing, not directed at you. Even Amuro Nakanoki, a lawyer who has been strictly trained not to laugh no matter how funny it is, couldn't help laughing, but when she noticed Kurosawa Mitsuru's glance, she quickly apologized and said that she didn't mean it. What a joke, it is impossible for someone in this world to be uninterested in money. If they say they are not interested, it is just that the price is not enough. As a lawyer, he has seen too many people of all kinds. All the beautiful things in the world are secretly marked with a price. However, Kurosawa Hikaru, who glanced at him, was not angry. The reason why people get angry is nothing more than being poked in the sore spot. In the past, he really liked money very much. For 20 years, he has been working hard to make a lot of money. But now, he is really not interested in money. After all, every skill given by the system is a priceless treasure and cannot be replaced by 1,000 gold. Oga Musashi did not speak or express his opinion. He knew that what he had just done to make things difficult for Igarashi Runa had angered Zero Time, and no matter how much he said, it would be useless. You are not interested in money, so how can I convince you? Takeda Emma did not mean to laugh, but heard his implicit meaning, rolled up her hair, straightened her waist, and lifted the roundness of her chest with one arm, and her voice became soft. Mr. Raitoki was so angry because of Miss Igarashi. Could it be that he likes beautiful women more than money? That's right, Mr. Raitoki looks like he's only in his early 20s, but Miss Adeline is 28 this year. Maybe Mr. Raitoki likes older women and mature women. Although her appearance and figure are not as good as Igarashi Runa, even if she is married and a mother, she is only 31 years old this year, which is the age of femininity and charm. Whether it's for the upper or the lower, there are many men who covet her body. If Mr. Kurosawa likes the older, she doesn't mind sacrificing her looks. The action of holding up the chest with arms across the chest is very purposeful, especially for girls with big breasts. The effect is feminine and sexy. Is she seducing me? When Kurosawa Mitsuru saw this action, how could he not guess that she had misunderstood something? He just felt at a loss. Not to mention that this woman's bust is not as big as Miss Runa's, even her beauty is not in his eyes. You know, his girlfriends are all prettier than the other, even his ex-girlfriends are prettier than the woman in front of him. 13 billion is not important, it can only be regarded as a stepping stone. I am not very satisfied with the other terms of the contract. I will ask your company to think about it carefully when I go back. Kurosawa Hikaru never liked to show his anger to others. Seeing her attitude, he didn't want to get things done, so he made his own request. 13 billion yen may be a sky-high price, but compared to the share of album sales, it is just a small sum. If he signs this contract for 13 billion yen, he will undoubtedly lose the watermelon. You know, after he and Chizuru dated at the hot springs and spent the night together, they completed the task and his piano had been upgraded from proficient level to perfect level. 13 billion can only be regarded as a stepping stone. Takeda Emma, who thought he was hinting at her, was stunned by his words. In fact, cooperating with an artist for 13 billion yen, buying out the copyright of 10 piano songs, and the artist's album agency rights for 10 years, and sharing the distribution of the cooperation, were conditions that she had never dared to think of before. This is equivalent to the value of each piano song being 1.3 billion yen, and Sony Music's platform resources are selling it on its behalf, with a 55-cent share, and they are also willing to help promote it. Even though Zero Hour is her idol, she still feels that this is a huge concession made by the company. In other words, are you not satisfied with the conditions we proposed? Oga Musashi didn't care about so much. Hearing this, he asked every opportunity. If Zero Hour was not satisfied with the conditions proposed by Sony Music from the beginning, then the main reason why the contract was not negotiated this time is not his problem. I'm not very happy with you either. Seeing that he was still trying to figure out his own problems, Kurosawa glanced at him coldly. It's true that he's dissatisfied with Sony Music's conditions, and it's also true that he's dissatisfied with this old thing. What the hell, sending an ignorant old pervert like this to negotiate a contract? Are Sony Music's board of directors all pigs? Didn't you know that his agent is a well-known beauty in the industry? Mr. Ling Shi, there is a wonderful saying in the ancient Eastern countries, leave a thin line in your life so that you can meet each other easily in the future. Oga Musashi, who was kneeling on the ground, found that he had kowtowed and sat down. He still refused to let go of himself. A sinister look flashed in his eyes. He seemed to be trying to persuade him, but he meant something else. The fish is dead and the net is broken, and no one can have an easy time. Maybe the rules of the industry mean that things within the industry cannot be exposed, but if you want me to die, I won't care about that much. Are you threatening me? Kurosawa Hikaru said coldly when he saw him putting on a dead-end face. It's easy to dodge an open gun, but hard to guard against a hidden arrow. If this guy really wants to retaliate, he must find a way to kill him. Armed with a sharp weapon, the murderous intention arises. Since getting the exclusive weapon of perfect level archery, He has not used it officially, but only tried it out in the competition field. But if this guy might threaten his safety and the safety of those around him, then he would just try the effect of the exclusive weapon. Facing his cold black eyes, Oga Musashi suddenly shuddered and felt his scalp numb. No, I just hope that you, sir, will have a lot of money and let the villain go. What I just meant is that even if the cooperation does not succeed today, maybe we will still have the opportunity to cooperate in the future. The next moment, Oga Musashi gave in, got down from his seat again, leaned down, and begged tremblingly. He was really frightened by that look. He had an extremely strong feeling that if he admitted that he was threatening, the consequences would be disastrous. This 0 hour is terrible and should not be messed with. What a villain. Seeing that he gave in again, Kurosawa Hikaru, who had just started to have murderous intentions, suddenly felt a headache. This old guy has a strong ability to assess situations, and his character of bullying the weak and fearing the strong is engraved in his bones. If you take a step back, he will get angry; if you take a step forward, he will give in. It's so shameless. Seeing this scene, Igarashi Runa was also speechless by his attitude. However, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. If this guy is really desperate, for example, if 0 hour's true identity is exposed as Kurosawa Hikaru, it will be troublesome. If Kurosawa Hikaru cleans himself up and is exposed, he will be exposed, and it may even push him to a higher altar. After all, he is so young, so handsome, and a top student at Tokyo University. But the problem is, Kurosawa is very philandering. In addition, she has at least 4 girlfriends, and there may be a 5th one, the white-haired beauty who sits in the super VIP seat at the music recital. I don't know how many she will have in the future. Once it is exposed, even if Waxen is not exposed for a while, it will still be a time bomb that will explode at any time. You kowtow 10 times and this matter will be over. Kurosawa Hikaru was too lazy to fight to the death with such a shameless villain, so he simply made a request. Sorry. Oga Musashi was very obedient, and when he finally heard him relent, he hurriedly kowtowed. He kowtowed very loudly, for fear that he would not hear, so he kowtowed loudly. In the blink of an eye, he kowtowed 10 times. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru saw him kowtowing so seriously and sighed in his heart. He was indeed a talent who could climb to the position of vice president in Neon's workplace. Yes, I'm really sorry. Oga Musashi's forehead was bleeding when he knocked it, his eyes were filled with stars, and he felt as if he had been reborn. Tokyo's most affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 486. I wonder what conditions Mr. 0 Hour wants. Finally, after the trouble caused by Oga Musashi was resolved, Takeda Emma spoke. It is impossible to buy out the copyright of my songs with this amount of money. I have toured the world, and just playing these 10 piano songs alone will cost more than 13 billion yen, not to mention being an album agent. Calm down for now. Kurosawa didn't even need to look at the contract they brought, he just said calmly. This is no joke. He has already checked and found that Swift's maximum income from a concert is $9 million, which is about 1.2 billion yen. Although Swift is the most profitable female singer in the world, and it is also a pop music song, it is more profitable than piano music and has a larger audience. But he has perfect piano skills, and he also has the famous piano music from his previous life. Even if he can't compare, he won't be much inferior. Of course, it is impossible for him to spend time and energy touring around the world just for money. Maybe no one dislikes money, but money is really not the most important thing to him. Are there any specific conditions? When Takeda Emma heard this, he felt unbelievable, but he still suppressed the strange emotion and asked seriously. 13 billion yen, 99% of the people in the world may not be able to earn this much in their lifetime. Of course, Master 0 Hour is not an ordinary person, so it may not be impossible for him to do it. In the final analysis, today's meeting is a business negotiation. They are buyers, and the seller is free whether he calls for a sky-high price or does not want to sell. Let's see if your offer can seduce me. There are two companies that are more sincere than you. The reason why I met with you first is because Ms. Runa thinks Sony is Neon's company and gives priority. Kurosawa Hikaru was not sure what price he wanted, so he just threw the problem to them and gave them a reminder. He has capital waiting to be sold, and after all, there are two big companies waiting for him. Thank you very much for the reminder. I will bring this news back to the company. Hearing this, Takeda Emma was shocked and bowed. Please come back. I hope the next meeting will be more pleasant. Kurosawa Hikaru, who had been standing at the door talking to them, said that and left without saying a word. Seeing this situation, Igarashi Runa also began to see off the guests. After chatting for a while, the representative sent by Sony left. As the door closed, Igarashi Runa turned around and started running upstairs. Even in high heels, her steps were fast. Ta 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 ta. If you wear high heels, walk slowly. What should I do if my feet sprain? At the same time, Hikaru Kurosawa, who had returned to the lounge and was sitting on the sofa holding a mouse and playing with a laptop, heard a rush of footsteps approaching and turned around to remind him. Don't you know how to massage? If your feet are sprained, please give me a squeeze. Igarashi Runa quickly came to the sofa and sat down next to him with a soft voice. Although she had never seen Kurosawa's massage skills, he said that he knew how to do it, and he probably knew how to do it. After all, this guy had a wide range of interests. Even if I can press it properly, it will still hurt? Kurosawa Hikaru looked sideways at her and smiled when he saw the smile on her mouth. Obviously, he put on airs and taught Oga Musashi a lesson just now, which made her very happy. It hurts once, and it becomes comfortable, and it's worth it. Igarashi Runa was indeed in a happy mood, so she touched him with her arm and got close to him. Since graduation, she has encountered situations like today's at work countless times. Even if she is very defensive and does not give her a chance, the person who dares to take advantage of her is either her boss or an investor. Even if she is aggrieved and unhappy, she has no way to show off her face and can only endure it. Some investors are attracted by her appearance and beauty, but they are more gentlemen. Even if they do not get a small advantage, they will still sign the contract considering the benefits of cooperation. The most difficult thing to deal with is people like Oga Musashi. If you don't touch his hand and let him take advantage of him, he will directly show you his face and make some excessive demands, such as asking you to attend some drinking parties. As the saying goes, a gentleman will not stand behind a dangerous wall, and she knows the truth behind it, so she will definitely not go there. However, if she didn't go, the contract would be ruined. The board of directors would often criticize her, saying that she would not lose any meat if she went to have a meal with the guests. Not human inside or out, she gradually fell in love with drinking. After all, I have too many worries and I need to vent them out. But this time it was different. Kurosawa directly helped her vent her anger. After the pain, it's not an ordinary feeling of comfort. Kurosawa Hikaru always felt that there was ambiguity in her words, so he looked at her calmly. It's not just ordinary comfort. How comfortable is it? Easy as hell. I do not believe. I'll let you see it later. Kurosawa Hikaru immediately became happy when he saw her provocative look. The feeling of getting along with Lao Siji is just different. Not a word about love, everything is love. Kurosawa, you were so handsome just now. Seeing his smiling face, Igarashi Runa felt that he was distracted and couldn't help but say. She discovered that she was a little bit crazy. Just now, when Kurosawa suddenly walked out and showed a straight face to a representative of a large company like Sony, she was really handsome. You know, for a big company like Sony, let alone sending a big shot at the vice president level. Even Miss Takeda, if she goes to Magic Star office, everyone has to treat her as a distinguished guest. As a result, Sony's subsidiary, the vice president of Sony Music Entertainment, could not hold his head up in front of Kurosawa, and even wanted to apologize to her. So in your opinion, I was the only one who was really handsome just now? When Kurosawa Hikaru heard this, he didn't know whether to be happy or how to react, and looked at her faintly. Oh, you've always been handsome, don't take advantage of me. Seeing him pretending to be unhappy, Igarashi Runa hugged his arm and coaxed him softly. She did think so. From the first time they met, when she saw Kurosawa surrounded by several beauties and dressed in trendy clothes, she felt that Kurosawa looked really handsome. Especially when we met for the second time, when I saw Kurosawa wearing a simple white shirt and trousers, I felt even more amazed. You know, she works in the entertainment industry and sees many good-looking male celebrities every day, and her discernment has long been cultivated. But even so, I am still amazed. This is because Kurosawa's appearance and temperament are so outstanding, elegant, and gentle, so rare. This is a temperament that most artists cannot have. After all, most artists debut at a young age. Even if they are educated, they are not many. You've always been beautiful too. His arm touched her ecstatic softness, and listening to her soft words, Kurosawa felt really good. I have to say that Sister Yu's coquettishness is really devastating. Because of their different personalities, the coquettish behavior of Miss Runa and Sister Chizuru gave him different feelings. Kurosawa, you just said you are not interested in money, then what are you interested in? Although such compliments are very common, Igarashi Runa felt very happy and felt very sweet. She recalled what happened just now and asked. I have to say, Kurosawa's words were really pretentious, and the professional lawyer couldn't hold himself back. Maybe everyone doesn't believe it, but she does. To you. Kurosawa turned his head to look at her, a pair of black eyes falling on her beautiful oval face. After this trip to the hot springs, the frank meeting with Sister Kinhee, the fusion of body and mind, touching the heart, he has been completely confirmed. Chizuru-san's hope that he would bring back Igarashi Runa was not sarcastic or angry, but sincere. In this case, he doesn't need to worry so much anymore. Anyway, Sister Chizuru is looking forward to this, and Xiaoyuki also knows and agrees with it. As for the future, she has already said that she doesn't care. Is that us? Igarashi Runa was stared at by his affectionate eyes and felt that her heart was about to beat out of her chest. The sudden emotion was so embarrassing that she couldn't help but spit at him. In fact, she had just guessed that Kurosawa was not interested in money, but he was particularly interested in making money. Seeing that she seemed to be jealous, Kurosawa Hikaru lowered his eyes and watched her apply lipstick. Her sexy and delicate lips had a charming sheen, as if she had applied honey on them, exuding a sweet smell. It was just a pretense. Dissatisfied, he moved forward to kiss her lips and physically blocked her mouth. Kurosawa, don't do this next time, there is no benefit in offending a big company. Igarashi Runa was actually not jealous. After being kissed by him, she felt more and more good about him and couldn't help but say. Teaching Oga Musashi a lesson made her feel bad. But the vice president of Sony Music Entertainment, a subsidiary of Sony, is no ordinary figure. If Chiuho settles accounts and takes revenge because of today's incident, it will cause Kurosawa a lot of trouble. You are my woman. If someone wants to take advantage of you, why shouldn't I be angry? Kurosawa Hikaru knew that what he did was indeed erratic, but he didn't feel that he had done anything wrong. A woman's thoughtfulness is the sweetest thing to a man. Ever since he met Igarashi Runa, Miss Runa had always taken good care of him. How could he bear this tone when he saw her being bullied? Oh, I know you are good to me, just promise me. Igarashi Runa knew very well that it was impossible to stop things like today, so she simply acted coquettishly. Her figure is so good that no matter how tight she is, she can't hide it. The companies that deal with zero-hour firm today are not ordinary companies. If they make too many enemies, they will lose more than they gain. Okay, okay. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she had said this, and he pretended to be soft-hearted and nodded in agreement. It was impossible for him not to be angry about something like this. But, thinking about it carefully, there was no need for him to break up in person. Rather than overturning the table in front of others, it is better to act in secret to avoid disaster. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 487. The Sony trio returned to the company after the first stage of business negotiations failed. Lawyer Amuro, Miss Takeda, please don't report everything that happened in the office just now. Oga Musashi in the back seat held a tissue and pressed his painful forehead with his hand, and said. Takeda Emma, who was driving, didn't say anything when he heard these words, but just sneered in his heart. If she had known it now, why bother in the beginning? She really couldn't understand why the board of directors would send this guy to do things just because his father was the former president of Sony Music Entertainment. This old pervert, as the vice president of Sony Music, holds a high position. What kind of woman has never had trouble, insisting on causing trouble when discussing business, for what purpose? I only look at the results. 13 billion is not enough to buy out 10 songs. This piano master has a huge appetite. Seeing that he couldn't straighten up as if his spine had been broken, Amuro Na and Nozomi adjusted his glasses and said calmly. He spoke only once in the office and was not fully involved. He could tell that that young man was most likely a zero-hour master. In addition, zero-hour may not have liked their conditions from the beginning. Although the process was tortuous and some farce occurred, they knew zero-hour's attitude and the result was the same. As a member of Sony Music's legal department, even though he is a lawyer by profession, he still knows a lot about things in the industry. 1.3 billion, it was easy to buy a murderer and kill him, but he was not satisfied with the price, which really opened his eyes. Miss Takeda. Seeing his statement, Oga Musashi did not answer, but looked at the front seat. Only business matters are discussed at the board meeting. The key is what Master Zero Hour said. There are two companies that want to cooperate and must report it as soon as possible. Although Takeda Emma hated him very much, it was impossible for him to threaten him with this matter. In view of what happened just now, she finally saw, Oga Musashi is flexible, and he is a typical villain. If you provoke such a person, you are just asking for trouble. Yes, I'll contact you right away. Seeing that they all agreed, Oga Musashi breathed a sigh of relief and came back to his senses. The top priority is for him to get through this difficulty first. In the afternoon, Kurosawa Hikaru and Igarashi Runa met with representatives from Apple Music and Penguin Music. But the result was the same, no contract was signed. As night falls, the windows of the third-floor lounge of Zero Hour office light up. Kurosawa, don't the three families agree? On the high table in the lounge, Igarashi Runa was eating takeout and was very puzzled. At first, Kurosawa Hikaru rejected Sony domineeringly. She thought that Kurosawa was simply standing up for her, but Apple and Penguin came in the afternoon and brought plans with better conditions than Sony. She was excited just thinking about it. Still rejected. Their offer was not sincere and they did not understand the value at all. They need to re-evaluate. Kurosawa Hikaru ate curry rice and nodded. Isn't this sincere? Sony's 13 billion, Penguin's 14 billion, and Apple's 18 billion. Igarashi Runa was shocked. To be honest, even in all her years of working in the industry, She has never seen so much money. Even Fujiwara Rika doesn't have time to go home 365 days a year or even during the new year. She has to attend the Red and White Song Festival, which brings about 5 billion in revenue to Magic Star firm. This is still the value of Fujiwara Rika at her peak after several years of debut. Putting this aside, a contract calculated in hundreds of millions is really scary. The most important thing is that none of these contracts have any mandatory performance conditions, which is in line with Kurosawa's requirement that he doesn't like to show off everywhere and hold concerts. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she still hadn't calmed down, and felt helpless, so he had to explain to her clearly. There are many songs that become popular overnight, and there are many singers who become rich overnight, but they are not a minority. Don't be intimidated by their fixed prices. Sony's asking price of 13 billion may seem high, but it actually requires a lot of money. Buying out the song copyright for 10 years is 1.3 billion yen a year. Really? Hearing these words, Igarashi Runa suddenly came back to her senses. She was really frightened by the tens of billions of yen contract. She couldn't help but smile when she thought about signing this contract and the firm would earn tens of billions of yen. Now calm down and think about it, this price is indeed very low. 1.3 billion a year, although there is no need to hold concerts everywhere, but with this little money, it is completely useless. What's more, the odd-hour firm is not in a hurry for money and needs 13 billion to save lives. But Sony's contract is beneficial, right? It's that they are willing to help us produce and sell albums. Sony's sales channels are the best and most mature in the industry, which can save us a lot of effort. However, Igarashi Runa suddenly thought about it and raised doubts. Do you really think this is a benefit to us? Let's not mention that according to your previous calculation, if my first album can sell 30 million copies, which is equal to 100 billion yen in sales, 55% will be divided among them 50 billion. If my songs are exclusively owned by them, it will indirectly attract traffic to Sony Music, which is of obvious value. Over the next 10 years, the more famous I became, the more money they would make. A conservative estimate is that the revenue is at least 100 billion yen, or even much more than that. Kurosawa Hikaru shook his head and made his opinion clear. In fact, he has gone as far as to say that if Sony signs such a contract with him, the stock price will rise due to the various factors of income and annual report performance. Can they earn so much? According to you, the contracts brought by the three of them today are all taking advantage of them. Igarashi Runa's eyes widened, she was really shocked. That's why I said they are not sincere. They just want to bully us because we don't know anything. We have a small family and a small business, and they want to use money to fool us. Kurosawa Hikaru looked at her happily, not really caring about her hindsight. She is a gold medal agent and has never studied finance. She is just good at cultivating artists. It is normal for her to be frightened when she encounters such a sky-high tens of billions contract and want to sign it immediately. And that Ms. Takeda is also very good at piecing together pie, bragging about 30 million album sales, which is equivalent to 100 billion. To be honest, even he was shocked when he heard Kinyi for the first time. Such a large amount of money, even after being divided, is not all, but it will allow them to achieve financial freedom. However, he calmed down after investigating. The three-point plan seemed to allow him to reach the sky in one step, but in fact, it was all about using small things to achieve great things. You look at me like this, I look stupid. Igarashi Runa looked at him with pleased eyes, her face felt hot and she was extremely ashamed. All in all, the three of them are not sincere. They all want me to become famous overnight and defraud me. Kurosawa Hikaru waved his hand and continued eating curry rice. Although he has cooking skills, he has always been very casual about what he eats. The reason why he likes rice bowls is because the soup tastes good and he can just make do with it. Then what price do they have to offer so that you feel they are sincere? Seeing his calm look, Igarashi Runa felt very handsome and couldn't help but ask. Remember what you said before, the most profitable singer in the entertainment industry can earn more than 20 billion yen a year? I don't have that much free time to hold concerts, so it's impossible to calculate it at that price. In fact, I don't know what price is appropriate. Let's look at their bid first. In this regard, Kurosawa Hikaru was sorting out his thoughts while talking, but he couldn't give an answer. What if they don't come and can't offer you the price you want? Igarashi Runa thought for a while, worried that she would miss the opportunity due to today's rejection. Although the other party took advantage, even so, the benefits from such a large contract are still very considerable. As Oga Musashi said, this contract is equivalent to tens of billions of yen for them. They will come again, and they will definitely bring sincerity. They are not worried about scarcity but inequality. In fact, even if they don't cooperate with me, it won't affect the fact that they are a big company, but they definitely don't want me to cooperate with them. Opponents cooperate. Seeing her feeling pity, Kurosawa Hikaru stretched out his hand to pinch her little face and comforted her. The biggest gain from entry-level finance investment theory skills is to understand your own bargaining chip and its value in the eyes of others. On the other side, Sony Music Entertainment held a board meeting. President Yoshida, didn't you keep saying that Oga Musashi would definitely sign the contract? Why didn't you sign the contract? And I heard that he was injured. He said he hit a telephone pole and there was a lot of blood on his forehead. Isn't it the result of kowtow? The board of directors had finalized the theme before the meeting, and as soon as it came up, there were people asking questions. Director Daquan, this meeting and negotiation is just to test the tone. I think that 0 Hour is not an ordinary person and knows its own value. And there are Apple and Penguin watching, so it may not be that easy to cooperate this time. The President Yoshida who was questioned was a middle-aged man with 2 white hair and a serious appearance. Faced with such questioning, he responded calmly. The reason why I sent Oga Musashi to negotiate the contract was because I valued this guy's ability to bully others, intimidate others, and use his momentum to attack others. Let him deal with a young agent like Igarashi Runa who suddenly started a business and became a boss. It's easy to catch. That's why, after the company initially formulated a strategy and spent a sum of money to test the background and appetite of 0 Hour firm, Oga Musashi was recommended. If this matter comes to pass, as the proposer, he will win the respect and recognition of the board of directors and the main company, and will advance to a higher level in his career. If this matter fails, it will not have much impact on him. At most, he will be questioned a few times. Because of the initial strategy of the board of directors, the conditions proposed were not sincere. They just wanted to test it out first to see if 0 Hour firm was a small company that would be taken advantage of by petty profits. I told you to show sincerity, but you refused to listen and even resorted to such tricks. 0 Hour's potential and value are obvious. You should have shown sincerity and tried to sign him as soon as possible. Director Daquan was a fat, middle-aged man. Seeing that he was still so stubborn after failing, he sneered a few times and looked at the others present. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 488. Director Daquan, this cooperation is of great importance. It should be done slowly and not in a hurry. And what do you mean by tricks? Apple and Penguin also adopted the same strategy and were also rejected. It is not surprising. The sincerity you mentioned is 300 billion. Is such a large investment something that can be decided so easily? Our company's operating profit last year was only 265 billion. You came up and said you wanted 300 billion to buy out the copyrights of 10 songs and sign a contract. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Faced with his sneer and disdain, the other directors immediately became unhappy. What's wrong with 300 billion? Sony is Neon's company, and 0 Hour is Neon's piano master. As long as we cooperate and work together, I dare say the value of this contract is at least 3 trillion. Director Daquan became angry when he saw that they dared to talk back. This group of short-sighted and stupid wastes have no idea how valuable zero time is. 0 hours rise is unstoppable. What's even more frightening is that Ling Shi is different from the kind of singer who becomes famous overnight and then falls in the blink of an eye. He has superb playing skills, miraculous arrangement ability, and unfathomable strength. In his opinion, such an amazing and talented person is destined to leave a strong mark in this era, and it is absolutely worth spending a lot of money to invest. He knows piano, so he knows that Master 0 Hours 10 adapted or original piano songs have magic power beyond imagination. Is he worth 3 trillion? Upon hearing this, the directors present scoffed. Director Daquan, you are going too far. I admit that 0 Hour is indeed very valuable, but our company's turnover last year was only 1.3806 billion. He alone can cost as much as 2 people in our music department with one contract more than a year's turnover. President Yoshida became angry when he saw that he dared to say so. If this name really needs to be wiped out, if the Sony music department fails to cooperate with 0 Hour in subsequent contacts, his dismissal will not be enough to atone for his crime. Is the value pure turnover? Is that how you calculate it? Director Daquan thought he was very accurate and was not afraid of his doubts at all, he said sarcastically. This guy is truly worthy of being the person who promoted Oga Musashi. They are all the same type of losers, relying on their father's seniority in the company to get to the top and forming cliques. I have some ability, but not much. I still haven't realized the seriousness of the problem until now. Then tell me, how do you calculate this? 3 trillion, just think of it as a 10-year contract, which is also worth 300 billion a year. How dare you say that? President Yoshida was not afraid and said mockingly. He was able to sit in the position of president not only because of his father's peripheral vision, but also because of his ability. Not to mention that 0 Hour is a pianist who has no actual honors and has not won any awards. He only gave a sold-out recital in a small place like the Tokyo Bunkakaikan. Even if he gets the trophy at odd hours, it is impossible for a super-phenomenal pianist who has given dozens or hundreds of concerts to have such value. Piano craze, public support, state support, epoch-making arrangements, and phenomenal influence, that's all I can say. You'd better find a way to sign the contract. If you really want to be hired by other companies, sign it and just wait and see. Seeing that he believed from the bottom of his heart that 0 Hour's value was just that, Director Daquan was a smart man and didn't want to waste any time talking to him. Total sales. This kind of simple thing is nothing more than a small profit compared to its 0 Hour value. He has already investigated and seen it with his own eyes. The appearance of Master Zero has aroused the enthusiasm of countless people across the country to learn piano. Ling Shi is known as the god of piano, and is sought after by countless people, proud of him, and even worshipped like a madman. 0 Hour's influence is so terrifying that it has become a national-level public figure before it has fully started operations. Sooner or later, the government will stop supporting it. As long as Sony and 0 Hour are tied together, they will definitely be able to reach a higher level. You don't need to tell me, I will find a way to sign it, Director Daquan, there is really no need to pretend to understand. President Yoshida actually thinks highly of 0 Hour, but seeing his flattering look still made him laugh. A contract worth 3 trillion. It's a shame that this fat guy dared to say it. Did he think he was talking about Zimbabwe coins? This is Japanese yen. If this matter spreads, it will definitely make people laugh. 0 Hour firm, after temporarily rejecting the contracts with the 3 major companies, Sony, Apple, and Penguin, does not mean that today's work is over. Because after the piano recital, there are many businesses and companies looking for cooperation. In the past week, a lot of project proposals had been accumulated. After Igarashi Runa screened them, those that he thought had good conditions were all given to Kurosawa Hikari to take a look at. Kurosawa, do you think I'm not suitable to be a boss? Igarashi Runa was sitting on the sofa. She took off her high heels and was wrapped in flesh-colored stockings. Her plump and round legs lay on her side. She looked at Kurosawa Hikaru's side face reading the contract and suddenly felt a little depressed. She was shocked by what happened today. She originally thought that cooperation with giant companies like Sony, Penguin, and Apple were rare good contracts. Who would have thought that these three big companies seemed to be full of sincerity and quoted sky-high prices, often worth tens of billions, but in fact they were eating people without spitting out their bones, and had huge plans. You are indeed not suitable to be a boss. Kurosawa Hikaru, who was reading the cooperation plan, glanced sideways at her, thought about it, and then said, When Runa Igarashi said such depressing words, she actually wanted him to encourage her. Unexpectedly, he agreed, and she suddenly felt sad. You are more suitable to be my wife than to be the boss. Before she could think further, Kurosawa Hikaru added, I'm asking you very seriously. Hearing this, Igarashi Runa realized that he had dug a hole to wait for her. She was ashamed and annoyed, and rolled her eyes at him angrily. I will answer you very seriously. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't smile, just looked into her eyes. Seeing that he didn't seem to be joking, Igarashi Runa didn't know how to answer the question. In fact, she was very happy when she heard this, even though she felt that it was not her turn to marry Kurosawa Hikaru. After all, Kurosawa currently has 4 girlfriends, and she is the 4th. However, she was also a little sad, because if he was serious, then what he just said about her not being suitable to be a boss was also true. Seeing her dejected and seemingly really sad, Kurosawa Hikaru put down the plan book in his hand and started to move. Let me see what the expression is. Kurosawa put his feet up on the sofa and lay on her lap as he spoke. Ah, what is covering my eyes? The sun and moon are in the sky. Resting on her soft and elastic legs, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't see Igarashi Runa's face and expression, and said in surprise, Bad guy. Seeing him being funny and saying meaningless words, Igarashi Runa was immediately amused and covered his eyes with her hands. Do you know why I said you are not suitable to be a boss? Hearing that she couldn't hold back her laughter, Kurosawa Hikaru raised his hand and pulled her hands away and asked, Why? Igarashi Runa was a little shy and always felt embarrassed by this gesture, but she was attracted by his words. We have been in business for so long, but you haven't hired any employees, and no one calls you boss. How can you be the boss? Kurosawa Hikaru didn't even know how to say good things about her. As a boss, he had to do everything himself. Apart from his partner, there was no one in this firm, and it was deserted. How could no one call me boss? I hired 8 employees, but they were placed in other places to work. Because your identity is too sensitive, I dare not recruit a large number of people, so the firm currently adopts an outsourcing management strategy, such as the public relations team, accounting team, operations team, and the like. Igarashi Runa was a little unhappy and glared at him, but she glared at her chest. After all, this guy was lying on her lap, completely blocked by her fat body. If Kurosawa hadn't wanted to be a masked artist, the office would have been bustling long ago. After all, when she was a top manager, she had quite a wide network of contacts. It would not be difficult to recruit people if she had money. It's just that it's easy to recruit people, but it's difficult to keep it secret. At present, the only people who know 0 Hour's identity are the employers who have a clear intention to cooperate and are full of sincerity. Outsourcing strategy, you are quite good at being a boss. Why did you ask me what I was doing just now? Kurosawa Hikaru, who was pillowing on her lap, only felt that the fragrance was pleasant, but after thinking about it, she didn't understand. Outsourcing, Also known as resource outsourcing, and external sourcing, is one of the decisions in business activities. Enterprises do what they are best at and outsource other tasks to professional organizations that can do these things well. The emphasis is on promoting one's strengths and avoiding one's weaknesses. This is a very efficient business model, which can effectively solve the dilemma of insufficient manpower in the organization, and can also save costs and make good use of resources. Because cooperation between different companies does not have good human resources, the cost of trial and error is very high, because you cannot guarantee that your outsourcing partner is professional enough. In short, the outsourcing strategy is to recruit the minimum number of core employees, save more money, and utilize the services of professionals in the society. Because I didn't understand today's contract, I thought it was a good contract. Igarashi Runa was shocked by what happened today. If her artist was not Kurosawa, but an artist who didn't know his stuff, her decisions and opinions would be the artist's decisions. When she was attracted by the sky-high contract worth more than 10 billion and got carried away, not to mention her losses, the artist's losses were huge. After all, the artist could have gotten more money than he deserved, but he ended up being harmed by her. You have only been the boss for a short time and have little experience. It is normal for you to make misjudgments. But don't worry. Sister Kinhee and I are by your side and will help you solve your problems. Although he couldn't see his expression because the sun and moon covered his eyes, Kurosawa Hikaru could guess her thoughts. In fact, he had thought about asking before, how did Ms. Runa become the boss, and how did she manage to find someone for such a long time? However, now I finally asked the question and found out that she had actually hired employees and entrusted many outsourcing teams, which made her feel relieved. Because he was quite worried. Ms. Runa was worried that his true identity was too sensitive and should not be exposed, so she did not dare to recruit people. She had to do everything by hand, and sooner or later she would be exhausted. Then I'll leave it to you. Igarashi Runa didn't like to be aggressive. She asked just now because she simply wanted some encouragement. Now that she heard him say this, a smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. What Kurosawa said was right. Unlike when she was a manager before, she always had to face many problems and troubles alone. Now, she has them by her side. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 489. Reading the plan is time-consuming and energy-consuming. Because the plan letter means cooperation, and business cooperation involves money, the result is that a contract must be signed. Having said that, although Runa Igarashi was involved in contracts worth tens of billions or more and was overwhelmed by the huge numbers, she could still keep a calm eye on contracts of hundreds of millions and billions. Kurosawa Hikaru looked through the filtered planning documents and felt very happy. He felt like the boss of a big company. He traveled around on weekdays and took time out to go back and forth to the company. He also had a beautiful secretary by his side to handle the stacked contracts. Yes. I want to ask Mr. 0 Hour about this first. I wonder if he is free. Igarashi Runa received a call. After a simple conversation, she pressed her finger on the phone and said, Kurosawa, Sony said they hope to interview again tomorrow. Give me the phone. Kurosawa Hikaru, who was reading the plan with his legs crossed, was silent for a while, stretched out his hand and said, Who are you? After receiving the phone, Kurosawa Hikaru was the first to ask. Mr. 0 Hour, my name is Takeda Emma. We met in the morning. The person on the other end of the phone was surprisingly one of the 3 people who came to negotiate the contract on behalf of Sony this morning, Takeda Emma. I'll be free tomorrow morning, but whether or not we need an interview depends on the conditions you offer and whether you're sincere. After confirming his identity, Kurosawa was not polite and said bluntly, Mr. 0 Hour, we have absolutely no intention of fooling you, and the conditions this time will definitely satisfy you. Oh? What conditions did Sony offer this time? Hearing her confident tone, Kurosawa twitched the corners of his lips and asked. The guaranteed minimum price of the contract has been increased to 30 billion, and other conditions and requirements remain unchanged. When Takeda Ema faced his problems, he was not afraid to speak out and was full of confidence. It is indeed better to negotiate the terms first, then have an interview, further discuss the details, and then sign the contract, as it will not waste the time of both parties. A contract with a minimum guarantee of 30 billion yen is a super large contract that can shock the industry globally. Because Kurosawa Hikaru turned on the loudspeaker smoothly, Igarashi Runa on the side heard 30 billion, and her beautiful eyes widened. As long as the conditions and requirements remained unchanged, he only refused once. In less than a day, the price soared to 30 billion, no wonder Kurosawa said Sony was not sincere. Is this considered sincerity? However, when Kurosawa Hikaru heard the price, he was still dissatisfied and frowned. He thought Sony was rejected once, realized the problem, and would take a serious attitude when asking for cooperation a second time. But this is the result. Isn't this sincerity? Takeda Ema, who was still confident at first, was made less confident by his dissatisfied and questioning tone. The board of directors discussed it all afternoon and finalized the requirements and conditions of the new contract. They conducted repeated research and submitted the information for approval. When the price was finally presented, she was shocked. Because she has never seen the decision-making speed of the upper management be so fast, I am afraid it is because the two powerful enemies, Apple and Penguin, are eyeing the results. It doesn't count. Kurosawa Hikaru said firmly. Then what does it take to be sincere? Takeda Ema only felt that his worldview, outlook on life, and values had collapsed, but based on his professional instinct of communication, he still asked patiently. If the price is increased several times according to your company's requirements, I may agree. Kurosawa Hikaru made a rough estimate and was not sure about it. How many times? Takeda Ema took a breath of air and felt her head buzzing. How many times 30 billion? Isn't that hundreds of billions? Did he think the money was brought by the strong wind? Let alone 100 billion, even 30 billion, she had never seen so much money in her life. If you don't want to pay such a price, you can lower your requirements appropriately. According to your company's requirements, my price is this, and I may not agree. Kurosawa Hikaru didn't think that what he said was shocking, he just conveyed his thoughts. Takeda Ema realized that he was not joking, and was speechless for a moment. This is not something you can decide. Just convey my request to me. If your company is willing to agree to my request, then call us. If not, there is no need to call. Kurosawa Hikaru knew that her position and status were not high, so he hung up the phone forcefully without talking nonsense to her. Kurosawa, are you serious? 30 billion will be doubled several times. Seeing him hang up the phone, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but ask. Of course I'm serious. Kurosawa nodded and affirmed. How could they agree to such conditions? They are likely to agree, because the contract proposed by Sony is conservatively estimated to make hundreds of billions. Can they make that much? Igarashi Runa didn't understand and was shocked. Let me calculate an account for you. You will understand after listening to it. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she didn't understand, and after thinking about it, he simply explained it to her clearly so that she wouldn't be shocked all the time. Good. When Runa Igarashi saw that he wanted to explain, he was naturally all ears. After a pause, Kurosawa gathered his thoughts, took a pen and paper on the table next to him, and explained to her in detail while writing. The superficial benefits of Sony's contract are the copyright of 10 songs, 50% of the profits from album sales, and the promotion of streaming music software. The first is song copyright. The physical record market is sluggish. Sony's revenue last year was $770 million, which is about 100 billion yen, which can be converted into Sony selling 30 million albums. Just assume that I sell 3 million copies of an album every year and 30 million copies in 10 years. According to a 55% share, a simple and rough calculation is a profit of 50 billion. But in fact, what Sony's contract asked me for was not the copyright of an album or 10 songs, but 60 songs. 60 songs. Igarashi Runa was confused and couldn't help interrupting. Isn't this buying 10 songs? Why did it become 60 songs? Sony's requirement for me is to shoot at least 2 promotional shoots a year, which is also the image spokesperson. A new album every 2 years is considered to have 10 songs in each album, that is 50 songs. Kurosawa Hikaru glanced at her and explained. Such sales were underestimated by him because the performance of his perfect piano was so explosive. Now, even if he puts aside the classic masterpieces from his previous life, he can still play with the sound of nature. I see. Igarashi Runa looked at the illustrations he drew in circles as he spoke, and understood immediately. Immediately, Kurosawa Hikaru continued to explain to her. Even if there are 5 albums, each album sells 10 million copies, that is 50 million copies, which is 160 billion in sales. Sony's revenue from the streaming media market last year was $6.37 billion, which is equivalent to 875.4 billion yen. This market is far better than the physical album market, which is the trend of the times. The larger the number, the harder it is to calculate. Just treat my album sales as, let's say, 10 billion in revenue a year, that's 100 billion. However, for Sony, the most valuable aspect of this contract is that it can help Sony consolidate its position as the #1 streaming media company, and its value is difficult to estimate. 180 billion. Igarashi Runa looked at the calculation he wrote down on paper, 500 add 800 add 500 equals Sony's profit, and was immediately shocked. She couldn't afford it early because Sony took the initiative to seek cooperation and actively contacted her. In fact, she could vaguely feel that Sony must have an agenda and be able to make money. But what she didn't expect was that Sony could make so much money. Do you understand now why I said they were insincere? Seeing her shocked expression, Kurosawa felt a little funny and cute. Understood. Igarashi Runa nodded. Kurosawa's calculation of accounts this time, coupled with the illustrations, was equivalent to putting the answer in her mouth. No wonder Kurosawa heard the asking prices of 13 billion and 30 billion, but still felt that Sony was not sincere and the price was too low. Suddenly, she thought of another level, and her heartbeat couldn't help but accelerate. Because Sony and Zero Hour firm share a 55-50 split, that is to say, no matter how much Sony can make, Zero Hour firm will do the same. Sony can earn at least 180 billion. If you want to share 150 billion after being given 30 billion, it is completely wishful thinking. And this is my more conservative estimate. If Sony signs this contract with me, their profit will be at least 300 billion. Seeing that she really understood this time, Kurosawa Hikaru did not forget to add. Is this still conservative? What if it's a radical estimate? Igarashi Runa was once again shocked by the number he said and asked. For Sony, the value of cooperation with us is at least 600 billion. Kurosawa Hikaru thought for a moment and made a bold guess. Sony's music division, Sony Music Entertainment, had a turnover of 1.37 trillion and a profit of 265 billion last year. Putting aside these superficial figures, market influence, equity, company image, industry status, comprehensive copyright operations and other comprehensive aspects, if you cooperate with him, for Sony, this value is calculated as 600 billion, which is not excessive at all. Wow! Igarashi Runa didn't even know what expression to use to react, she just felt dumbfounded. She had already expected that working with a giant company like Sony would definitely make a lot of money, but isn't this too crazy? Is this how money is made? Anyway, I'll be the one to decide this contract. You just have to watch it. Seeing her shocked expression, Kurosawa Hikaru was a little amused and warned her. This cooperation, it is no exaggeration to say, is the most important cooperation for Zero-Hour firm. He is not completely sure of his own value. After all, he has been a salesperson for a long time and is not an industry insider. He doesn't have much time to investigate, and he doesn't know much about the entertainment and music circles. However, after he took over the business plan and relied on his financial knowledge and conducted market research, he still had a rough understanding of his own value. I just want to eat cake with him for 30 billion. What kind of sincerity is this? You know, there is market competition between Sony, Apple, and Penguin. Competitive pressure will invisibly raise prices. For these three companies, signing a contract with him will definitely make a profit as long as the price is not too outrageous. In fact, Zero-Hour Agency can actually not cooperate with the three companies, but sell the album independently, and can hold all profits in its hands. Unfortunately, Zero-Hour Agency is too small. It has just been established and there are not many employees. It is very difficult to independently produce and sell albums in many aspects. In the first 10 years, first cooperate with one of these three large companies to maximize profits. In the second decade, when you have enough funds and connections, you can choose to sell independently, and Zero-Hour Agency will be able to transform into a behemoth in the music industry. You make the decision, so how much do they offer to satisfy you? 100 billion yen is not a small amount. Even for big companies like Sony, Penguin, and Apple, it is not easy for them to pay it out in one go. Realizing the importance of this cooperation, Igarashi Runa completely put aside the idea of interrupting and gesticulating, and was just curious. She wanted to know how this cooperation would end. Although she has never worked at Sony, she knows that the amount of liquidity a company can actually use is not as much as people think. During this time, she was busy after work every day, reading books and checking information to recharge herself, hoping to become a qualified boss. 100 billion yen seems like a lot, but in fact it's just that. Any acquisition of a company would cost them more than this kind of cooperation. Kurosawa Hikaru has a different view on this. Perhaps 100 billion yen, for many neon companies, cannot afford such a large amount of money. But for Sony, Penguin, and Apple, this little money is of no consequence at all. Indeed. Although Igarashi Runa was shocked, she agreed after thinking about it. Thinking about it carefully, the companies she knew were not on the same level as super large companies like Sony, Penguin, and Apple. However, what she didn't realize for a moment was that, this concept was actually not equivalent. You must know that for any large enterprise, acquiring a company is a strategic decision and a major strategic move. Actually, their asking price is not the most important. The key is other conditions, such as sales sharing. If a company can offer a ratio of 73 or 82, let alone 30 billion, I will sign the contract even if it is 13 billion. Anyway, we are not in a hurry for money. The more Kurosawa pondered, the clearer his ideas became. Buying out at a fixed price is just a stepping stone to cooperation. It would be nice to see the sincerity of cooperation. The bulk of the profit from this cooperation lies in the share. Of course, if a company is willing to give a very high price, it is not impossible for it to package and sell it directly. At this moment, Igarashi Runa's cell phone rang, and she picked it up and took a look. Penguin or Apple? This cooperation is of great importance, Kurosawa Hikaru asked, more concerned. Although he said he was not interested in money, he would still be very interested in a lot of money. After all, the balance in his bank card is not so large that money is just a number. It's Chizuru, Do I want to pick it up? Igarashi Runa shook her head and pointed the phone screen at him on the side of her wrist for him to see, feeling a little nervous. Definitely pick it up. Why not? We are working and not in bed. Are we still afraid that she will catch you? And she knows that I am with you. I told her last night that I will talk about work with you today. Kurosawa Hikaru discovered that remarks was really Chizuru, and when he noticed her nervousness, he immediately felt happy. You should have told me earlier. Igarashi Runa reacted and realized that there was no need to be nervous. She coughed twice to hide her embarrassment and rolled her eyes at him. Immediately, she answered the phone and spoke proactively. Chizuru, what's wrong? Runa, how was the contract negotiation today? Although there was no amplification, Kurosawa Hikaru's hearing was very keen. When he pricked his ears, he heard Chizuru's voice coming from the microphone. The talks are not very good. Sony, Penguin, and Apple are not sincere. We still have to wait and see what happens next. Igarashi Runa shook her head and responded. Everything comes easy, don't worry. Is Kurosawa with you? Or has he gone back? He's with me, he hasn't gone home yet. You asked him to look at his phone. I sent him a message, but he didn't look at it. Did you call me just to show him the message you sent? Right. You're going too far. You called me, but you ended up calling someone else. At the same time, after hearing their conversation, Kurosawa Hikaru also took out his mobile phone from his pocket and opened Line to read the message. Because he has too many girlfriends and is always with a certain girl. In order to avoid being seen and making people jealous, he rarely reads messages unless he is free or returns home. Looking at it, he found that Sister Kinhee had really sent a message. Kurosawa, the Mercedes-Benz dealership sent me a message saying that they contacted you, but you didn't answer the phone or reply to the message. The car dealer said that the Maybach we ordered will arrive at 5:27 this afternoon, and asked you when to pick up the car. Tomorrow. When Kurosawa Hikaru saw these two messages, his heart moved and he immediately replied. Just kidding, since the ordered car has arrived, of course the sooner you drive it, the better. Today's update, this chapter is more complicated to write. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 490. Tick. Tick. Sweat dripped down her beautiful cheeks, dotted her chin, condensed into beads, and dripped onto the floor. Yuki Ichinos was lying on the wooden floor of her bedroom, with her legs apart and her upper body pressed forward on the floor. Maintaining this movement can exercise the body's flexibility and has a strong effect in burning fat. When she was alone, she did not slack off. Makeup, dance practice, yoga, pronunciation, singing, reading, expression control, body training, and model catwalk steps. Maybe it was summer vacation, but she had too many things to learn, and she was busy from morning to night every day. Beep. Just then, the phone next to her suddenly rang a reminder tone. Hearing this movement, her pretty face showed joy, and without any hesitation, she reached out and took it in her hand. However, she glanced at the notification message on her phone and saw who the sender was, and she couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. Mom, I'm going to the convenience store. Do I need to bring you something? She originally thought that Brother Guang had finished his work and it was time to send her a message every day. No, Mom, you're going out so late, be careful on the road. Yuki Ichinos maintained the splits and replied to her message. Maybe she only started learning yoga last year, but maybe she was gifted, her body is very flexible and adaptable. Practice for a while and then go take a shower. After finishing this, she looked at the time, 9:47, muttered, and continued to exercise. She wanted to become better, she wanted to use the summer vacation to make herself reborn. Although Brother Guang didn't send a message, she felt a little disappointed, but only a little. Because she knew that when Brother Guang finished his work during this period, he would take her back to his hometown to meet his parents. When she thought of this, she was nervous and looking forward to it, hoping that her performance would not be too bad. At the same time, on the other side, Mickey Bayu had already soaked her feet, applied a facial mask, washed her white, put on pajamas, and lay on the bed. I hope you can finish your work sooner. After turning off the lights, Shiraha Mickey covered herself with the quilt, moved her head, adjusted her sleeping position to be comfortable, sent a good night greeting to Kurosawa Hikaru, and closed her eyes. Unlike before, she now follows the same schedule as a figure skater. She goes to bed early and gets up early every day, full of longing and expectation for tomorrow. She no longer suffers from insomnia, wakes up suddenly by nightmares in the middle of the night, or stays up late reading. The experience of breaking her leg and ruining her career is like a nightmare, even after many years, and makes her feel like she is falling into the abyss every time she thinks of it. However, as she began to focus on pair skating, she found that she could skate well. Because pair skating also requires hard work, but because the jumping movements are not so strict, her knees will not be under a lot of pressure. At the beginning, the senior told her that it might not be impossible to skate together and win the championship together. After a serious calculation, Kurosawa Hikaru had an expectation of the contract requirements. Sony, Apple, and Penguin, the three big companies, either offered a very high buyout price or lowered the profit-sharing requirements to give more profits. That's why he received Apple and Penguin's request to meet again tomorrow, which showed his attitude. Show your sincerity, don't try to fool him, at least 100 billion yen will be considered. As for the value of signing a contract with him, he didn't say much. He could think of the value, and if these three big companies couldn't calculate it, they were totally kidding. The next morning, Kurosawa Hikaru went to the company of Cat Carnival with Igarashi Runa to shoot an advertisement. The cooperation with the music game Cat Carnival was the first big order of the agency. After so much delay, it was time to fulfill the contract obligations. Because of his perfect piano skills, he played music games easily, and with his proficient acting skills, he was able to shoot all the shots in one go. When he arrived at the shooting location, he was already wearing the zero-time suit. Even if he didn't use the piano to prove himself, no one doubted his identity in this matter. You know, unlike private, small-scale cosplay, this is a commercial activity, an important occasion involving many aspects such as portrait rights and copyrights. Arriving at the shooting location at 8 a.m. and leaving the company at 11 a.m., Kurosawa Hikaru and Igarashi Runa took the elevator and drove away in the underground garage. 1 billion yen just like that. Because he was working, Kurosawa Hikaru sat in the back seat, but his face behind the mask showed a strange color, and some incredible ease. For their advertising endorsement with Cat Carnival, they only need to shoot 5 commercials and 10 promotional posters, and they cannot endorse other games within a year. Just after doing these things, they can get 1 billion. Why do so many people in Japan start to consider becoming full-time YouTubers, and even artist agencies and schools are developing online artist businesses? Because this is the importance of fame in the era of big data traffic. It's not in our hands yet. We have to wait until they edit the film, post-produce it, submit it for review, and both parties agree to officially start promoting it before we can pay. Igarashi Runa couldn't hide his smile. She also didn't expect that the fulfillment of the contract obligations would be so easy, and it was resolved in just 3 hours. Unlike in the past at Huansing firm, where she had no equity at all, in this contract, she has 30% of the equity. It is true that the 30% equity dividend only counts net profit. Even though the tax rate for neon artists is terrible. 1 billion must be paid in taxes first, deducting operating costs, and deducting Kurosawa's 55% share of the artist contract to be the pure profit, but it is still a very considerable amount of money. Don't worry, it will be done in a month at the latest. Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. Although he was emotional, he was not very excited. Compared with the big contracts we are facing now, a 1 billion yen contract like Cat Carnival is completely child's play. To put it bluntly, as long as they sign a contract with any of Sony, Apple, and Penguin, our firm will never go bankrupt during the contract period unless it encounters a natural disaster. However, signing this contract cannot be done overnight. Because the amount involved in this contract is calculated in hundreds of billions, even a Fortune 500 company must carefully consider it and hold various meetings to discuss and make decisions before making a decision. That's why, since he expressed his attitude last night, the three companies have not yet made a decision. Now that I think about it, 1 billion allowed them to buy a year's worth of game advertising endorsements. As the vice president of Cat Carnival, Ms. Nishimura's vision is really vicious. They made a lot of money. After Igarashi Runa left, she also thought about the things discussed last night and couldn't help but sigh. Miss Nishimura is really good at investing. She saw 0 hours potential early on, took a big gamble, and showed full sincerity. Facts have proved that Miss Nishimura is worthy of the name of a strong woman, and she made the right bet. Since the music recital, 0 hours fame has been soaring and unstoppable, reaching the top of the clouds. Many companies have taken the initiative to contact and seek cooperation, and these endorsements can easily cost billions. It's a pity that he and Kurosawa sold the game endorsement rights as early as 0 hours fame. In business cooperation, you don't have to think too much about gains and losses, just a win-win situation. The benefits of Cat Carnival's cooperation with us will be seen by other companies. When the contract expires, the next contract will only be better. Maybe he knew that Cat's Carnival meant small things, but Kurosawa Hikaru didn't care. Investment is risky. Miss Nishimura led the Cat Carnival to make decisions. No matter how big the reward is, it is deserved. Indeed. After Igarashi Runa thought about it, he quickly understood the reason. The capital market is very greedy, like sharks. As long as they smell blood, they will swarm. In short, this contract will be able to prove Kurosawa's value in terms of endorsements. The more Cat Carnival makes, the higher the value in the eyes of capitalists. Speaking of it this way, in our contracts with Sony, Apple, and Penguin, can we reduce the length of cooperation? For example, if you sign with one of them for 1 year first, you have proven your value, and you will not be afraid that they will not be sincere enough in subsequent contracts. Suddenly, Igarashi Runa, who was driving, had a flash of inspiration. He. Hearing her question, Kurosawa Hikaru couldn't help but smile. Why are you laughing? I'm very happy that you can think of this, but I guessed in the wrong direction. Direction? Igarashi Runa was a little confused. Kurosawa Hikaru nodded slightly, touched his chin, and explained. Actually, now that Sony, Apple, and Penguin want to cooperate with me, 3 companies are faced with 2 choices. The first one is that my debut time is too short and my market value is not obvious enough. No one from the 3 companies can figure out my value. They only sign for 1-3 years to further figure out my value. For investment, this is the safest approach, but the returns will be relatively low and there are hidden dangers. If I prove my absolute worth in this short-term contract and want to renew it, the price may rise to the sky. Once the contract renewal fails, they help me operate and promote it, which is equivalent to helping others make a wedding dress, and the risk is even greater. Second, there is a company that values my value and decides to take a big gamble and offer a sky-high price, or give me a profit, impress me with sincerity, and reach a strategic long-term cooperation once and for all. This is a very risky approach for investing, but it is the most common approach for large companies with deep pockets. 10 years is a long time, and they can safely help me promote it, maximize my value, win more, and in a win-win situation, it will be easier to cooperate in the future. For large companies, short-term profits are not enough. Many of their plans are aimed at long-term profits. Because it is a large company with a solid foundation, they have enough time to win more. I see. Igarashi Runa listened to his explanation and nodded with understanding. At the same time, she admired Kurosawa more and more in her heart. This guy is obviously still a college student who has not stepped out of society, but he turns out to know so much. Is this the top student in the finance department? In the afternoon, they went through the plan finalized last night, met with some people at the office, conducted business negotiations, discussed the contract details and signed them. Kurosawa Hikaru did not go to tutoring class today because today's matters were very important and he asked for leave. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 491. At 6:52 in the evening, the open-air parking lot outside the Mercedes-Benz Ford store. As a Mercedes-Benz approached, it parked slowly with relatively poor skills, and a person got out. Runa Igarashi, who was sitting in the car, honked the horn. It was a black-haired woman wearing a mask. She subconsciously glanced back when she heard the sound of the horn. This person is surprisingly Ninomiya Chizuru. Because when she bought the car before, she was wearing a black wig, so she was wearing the same style today. With just one glance, she recognized that the car honking the horn was the car owned by her best friend, Runa Igarashi. Realizing this, she changed her route and turned around. In the neon business culture, women generally wear suits, shirts, long skirts, and high heels. As soon as she got off work, she put on a wig and put on eye makeup in the car, and then drove here. Chizuru Ninomiya was still wearing OL clothes. Her long black hair was tied casually to one side, and perhaps the mask covered most of her face. Her tall, slender, and beautiful figure, coupled with her eyebrows, were already stunning. After a while, Ninomiya Chizuru came to the car, opened the backseat door and got in the car. Sorry, I'm a little late. As they got into the car, Ninomiya Chizuru glanced at Kurosawa in the back seat, then at Runa in front, and said, "We just arrived." Kurosawa Hikaru waved his hand, not surprised by this, looking at her very happy. Because that night at the Hot Spring Hotel, not only the physical relationship between him and Sister Kinhee had been sublimated, but the emotional relationship had also improved a lot. Tisk, tisk, tisk. At this moment, Igarashi Runa turned back and looked at them. What? Hearing her strange noise, Ninomiya Chizuru frowned. We have been apart for 3 days, and we are so impressed. Igarashi Runa touched her chin and teased. The figure of Chizuru walking over from her car just now was so charming. Is this the difference between a girl and a woman? Even if she is a girl, she is still itching to look at her charming appearance. What did you say? When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this ridicule, she felt a little shy for no reason and pretended to be angry. Ever since she slept in the same bed with Kurosawa that night in the hot springs and crossed the boundary between a girl and a woman, she actually discovered that she had changed a lot. For example, while working at a bank these past 2 days, all her colleagues said that she had become more beautiful. Some female colleagues said that she was more feminine, easier to get along with, and not as aloof as before, and asked her what good things happened to her. Some female colleagues speculated whether she was pregnant, while others speculated whether she had been proposed to. However, none of her female colleagues guessed that she and her boyfriend were staying in a room for the night. That is Runa, who was easier to guess, knowing that they were going to Hakone Hot Springs for vacation, and even encouraged her to seize the opportunity to take down Kurosawa. I'm talking about your disguise skills. At this level, if Kurosawa hadn't told me in advance that you would wear a black wig and stand in front of me, I might not even be able to recognize you. Seeing her embarrassment, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but snicker, and said seriously again. That attitude was as if she was not talking about a girl meeting a woman at all. Finding that she was telling lies with her eyes open and refusing to admit it, Ninomiya Chizuru rolled her eyes at her and did not argue with her. Is working in a bank hard? When Kurosawa Hikaru saw the banter between them, he found it amusing and concerned. Although this time he was booking a room, he didn't leave early in the morning, but stayed with Kinzuru until the afternoon. But she has been pampered since she was a child and has basically never suffered, and she doesn't know how fast her recovery will be. It's not hard, just a little troublesome. Ninomiya Chizuru shook her head. What's wrong? Because everyone knows that I am Adelina, many customers who make appointments are not here to save money and discuss cooperation, but to get autographs. It'll be fine after a while. After hearing this, Kurosawa Hikaru didn't pay much attention and comforted him. In fact, the reason why he made the request was to buy out at a high price, and also for Chizuru's consideration. Because if any of these three companies were to be ruthless and throw money at him, the firm's revenue would be soaring all of a sudden, and he could rely on this achievement to resign to her parents with her head held high. However, he was not in a hurry to talk about it. Everything was fake until the contract was signed. Ninomiya Chizuru knew that he and Runa were working hard for profit, so she nodded and did not complain again. This matter cannot be rushed. You must know that her parents have spent a lot of effort and connections to place her in Juyi Bank, and she will have a relatively high position from the beginning. It's not that easy for her to leave the bank, a place she doesn't like, and she must have absolute capital to convince her parents. As for the matter of autographs, she couldn't avoid it as long as she was not angry. Let's pick up the car first. If there's anything extra, we'll talk about it later during dinner. Igarashi Runa suggested. Good. Speaking of this, Ninomiya Chizuru nodded immediately. She really wanted to see what the car she bought for Kurosawa looked like, and she also wanted to see Kurosawa's reaction. Hikaru Kurosawa actually wanted to pick up the car the most. After all, he would finally have a car of his own. Before getting off the bus, he did not forget to remind Igarashi Runa to put on a mask. After all, after signing 0 Hour, Runa Igarashi's Twitter account posted messages from time to time, speaking on behalf of 0 Hour, and her popularity is not low. Not long after, they walked into the Force store together. Nami, the salesperson who was responsible for signing the car sales contract for them, was already waiting at the gate. After simple greetings, they immediately went to see the car. When did Chizuru buy you such a good car? After being led to a top-end Maybach, Igarashi Runa took a breath of air and couldn't help but bumped Kurosawa's waist with her elbow, saying in shock. Although women are not as fond of cars as men, they are basically interested in small animals, brand-name cars, and some cute models. But she was a car owner, and she was involved in the entertainment industry. She had a lot of experience, and she could tell at a glance that this car was worth a lot of money. From her perspective, the car was worth at least 50 million. When Sister Kinhee bought a villa, she bought it for me, by the way. Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the top-of-the-range Maybach in front of him and felt a little thirsty, so he answered after hearing this. This black and white model has large Michelin wheels. Buy a villa? Did she buy you a villa? Igarashi Runa was dumbfounded. When did this happen? She didn't even know whether it was a car or a villa. She bought it for herself, even though it was written in my name. She didn't tell you. After Kurosawa explained, he realized something was wrong and looked at her in surprise. Igarashi Runa looked at Chizuru standing aside with resentment. I forgot, I've been too busy lately, and you're busy too. Ninomiya Chizuru noticed her sad eyes and felt a little guilty. This car was ordered last Saturday because she had to go to work on Sunday and had to contact a moving company to move. Before she could fully settle in, Kurosawa asked her to go to Hakone again. Take time off, go on vacation, spend the night, rest and recuperate, go to work, and here we are now in the blink of an eye. Kurosawa, what do you think of this car? Realizing that she had forgotten to tell her best friend such an important thing, Ninomiya Chizuru felt guilty and simply changed the subject. I like it so much, but why is it a two-tone body paint? Wasn't the one I saw before pure black? Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the car in front of him and was amazed at first glance, but he also muttered and turned to ask the salesman. The Maybach S680 in front of me is painted in silver and black, giving it a sense of luxury, business, and fashion. The glorious and streamlined body design is full of Mercedes-Benz style. It also has a cool front end and oversized wheels, which is domineering and gorgeous. Stunning. It is no exaggeration to say that no man can refuse such a luxury car. But, with such an appearance, how can he keep a low profile? With this appearance, if he drove it on the street, it would definitely be a street-level performance. Because the top-of-the-range Maybach S680 is a limited edition with two-color body paint, don't you like this color? Nami, the saleswoman standing nearby, turned pale when faced with his question and asked cautiously. It's over. If this customer is dissatisfied and wants to change to black paint, she will definitely be accused by her superiors and said her service is not good enough. I like it, but I'm not low-key. Kurosawa shook his head and expressed his troubles. You drive a Maybach and you want to keep a low profile. Hearing this, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. As for the Maybach logo next to the rear window, no matter what the paint is, this car cannot be low-key. What's more, you don't even need to see Maybach's exclusive car logo. Just look at the Mercedes-Benz logo, the streamlined design and texture, and the super long body. Even people who don't know anything about cars can recognize this car. Very expensive. After all, not all cars can achieve an ultra-long body. Isn't this more low-key than a supercar? Kurosawa Hikaru was a little embarrassed and asked. That is indeed a bit low-key, but the person you are comparing to is too high-profile. Igarashi Runa was immediately speechless when he learned why he thought this car was low-key. Compared with supercars, Maybach is indeed a model of low-key luxury, but it is still more high-profile than most cars. If this car were put together with her car, it would definitely be a judgment call. Mr. Kurosawa, would you like to see the interior? The saleswoman Nami didn't show dissatisfaction when she saw Kurosawa Hikaru, but her eyes shone, which was also a suggestion to strike while the iron was hot. Of course you have to take a look. Although the two-tone paint was unexpected, Kurosawa was still very surprised when he first saw this car and liked it very much. After that, with the help of the saleswoman, he opened the car door and got into the driver's seat. How much does this car cost? Seeing this scene, Igarashi Runa asked carefully. 120 million. The female saleswoman Nami knew that they had a good relationship. This time, she was a colleague who came to pick up the car, so she naturally received her as the most distinguished guest. Oh, so cheap. When Igarashi Runa heard the price, her beautiful eyes turned and she said to herself excitedly. Things are different now. If it were her before, she would definitely be shocked when she heard the price. But because Kurosawa Hikaru settled the accounts for her last night, which easily amounted to hundreds of billions, she was already numb. She was thinking about whether to buy one after signing this big contract. It looked great. Saleswoman Nami was stunned when she heard her muttering. She was shocked for a whole year. 120 million is still cheap? Is she another rich woman? Please give me a monthly ticket, please subscribe. 2 more chapters are here. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 492. This time, I came to the Ford store to pick up not only the latest Mercedes-Benz S680 Maybach of Kurosawa Hikaru, but also a car of Ninomiya Chizuru. After checking the Maybach and seeing the interior, Igarashi Runa really liked it. Especially the sound system, the audio-visual effect of the Berlin sound made her full of praise. When driving, especially for a long journey of dozens of kilometers, the effect of the car audio is crucial. Ninomiya Chizuru returned the commuter car provided by the Ford store to the car dealership. It took more than an hour to complete the procedures for picking up the car. The three of them drove away in one car each. It's so cool. Driving on the road, driving the Maybach, Kurosawa Hikaru looked at the interior of the car with excellent ambient lighting effects and liked it very much. In fact, most people have two top priorities after making money: houses and cars. To be frank, everyone has had a vision of houses and luxury cars, regardless of gender. It was more than 8 o'clock in the evening, and it was the time when the neon night market was bustling. There are many pedestrians on the street, because after a busy day, everyone will choose to go out for a walk and cool off after dinner. Compared with other countries, the electricity bill in Neon is relatively expensive. That's why, even in the hot summer, many people are reluctant to turn on the air conditioner, and most of them use fans. During the day, there is no choice, but at night when the sun has set, it's enough to use a fan. On the sidewalk, fathers and sons, mothers and daughters, couples, brothers and sisters, walk together on the street. Daehi, look, what car is that? It's so beautiful. While walking, a girl took her boyfriend's arm and looked up to see a car, and her sight was instantly attracted. Not only boys like cars, but many girls also like cars. However, girls like luxury cars, that is, cars that look beautiful at first glance. As for cheap cars, they usually don't like them. Mercedes-Benz, this car logo is all over the street. The boy looked at the direction she pointed, and was stunned by the front of the super long luxury car at a glance, and saw the car logo in a blink of an eye. Mercedes-Benz is the most popular imported car in Neon, with impressive sales. It is not an exaggeration to say that it can be seen everywhere on the street. It's great. The girl looked at the car and looked at the open-air parking lot of the family restaurant not far ahead, and was very envious. Do you like it? The boy suddenly asked when he saw her expression. I like it. The girl nodded. If she said she didn't like it, it would definitely be a lie. She could feel that this car was super expensive. She had never seen one in her 19 years of life. Scarcity makes things valuable. Rare and beautiful things are usually expensive. This car might cost tens of millions of yen. When I make money in the future, we will buy one too. The boy patted his chest and set a goal. Daehi, you are awesome. The girl was immediately moved when she saw his ambitious look. Family Restaurant is a casual restaurant in Neon. As the name suggests, the main customer group is a family. The decoration in the store is based on a family atmosphere, the environment is comfortable, and the space is relatively wide. Because the store is air-conditioned, it is suitable for cooling off and studying in the hot summer. As time is getting late, it is close to 9 o'clock in the evening, and customers are coming out of the store one after another. Wife, come out and see the luxury car. An office worker who has not taken off his uniform came out of the store and saw a luxury car reversing in the parking lot after a day of hard work. He felt refreshed. Wow, what a beautiful car, how expensive is this car? Hearing the greeting, his wife came over and took a look, and was immediately shocked. This is a Mercedes Maybach S-Class 680, priced at more than 70 million. The office worker works in a car dealership and has some knowledge of various models. He is very impressed. Luxury cars of this level are rare in the country and are rarely seen on weekdays. At the entrance of a convenience store not far from the family restaurant, there were some bad boys and girls squatting on the roadside around a few motorcycles, smoking and chatting under the lights. They saw the luxury car not far away, and looked back at their own car, only to feel that it was boring. "We're here." After smoothly and neatly backing the car into the parking space, Kurosawa Mitsuru glanced at the restaurant in front of him through the front window. He had been to this restaurant once before with Miss Runa. This is a restaurant that Igarashi Runa often visits. The dishes are diverse and are loved by men, women, young, and old. The key is that it is very close to her home. Although Maybach is a luxury car, it is not a supercar after all. The way to open the door is still relatively conventional, not the kind of fancy shape. However, after Kurosawa Mitsuru got off the car, he felt the sights and eyes from all directions. It is no exaggeration to say that from the elderly to young people in their teens, even a passing dog, were looking at him. Is it really too low-key? Realizing this, Kurosawa Hikaru muttered to himself a little helplessly. The silver and black two-tone paint makes it hard for others not to notice his car. Although he hopes to be more low-key, it should be said that it is really nice to drive a luxury car and attract attention. In this world, there may be people who really like to be low-key and don't like to stand out, but what is certain is that no matter who they are, they like to show off, which can also be understood as showing off. Because humans are social creatures, showing off, and attracting attention will bring some troubles, but there are more benefits. After being alone for a while, Kurosawa Hikaru quickly waited for the other two people. Both Igarashi Runa and Ninomiya Chizuru were wearing masks, so their appearance could not be clearly seen, but just their eyebrows and their figures showed off their charms to the fullest. After all, they all have good figures, and even a common dress looks very high-end when worn on them. This is the function of temperament. They are all strong women. They have been beautiful women since they were young and have developed a confident demeanor. As they got out of the car, Kurosawa Hikaru greeted them and walked into the restaurant together. "Sister Kinhee, you still need to practice your reversing skills." Along the way, Kurosawa Hikaru also joked. "I know." Ninomiya Chizuru noticed that he was laughing at her and rolled her eyes at him. Unlike Kurosawa and Runa, two veteran drivers, parking is basically a one-step process. Her reversing time is longer and usually requires multiple adjustments. How does it feel to drive the Maybach? After arriving at the store, under the guidance of the waiter, he sat down at an empty seat, and Igarashi Runa couldn't wait to ask. As soon as these words came out, Ninomiya Chizuru's beautiful eyes turned towards Kurosawa. This car was her second gift to Kurosawa after the piano. What's more, the value and importance of this gift are far greater than the piano, because it has a different agreement. "It's great." Facing their gazes, Kurosawa Hikaru smiled. "I was following you just now, and the way you drove the road was really exaggerated. Every car kept a very safe distance from you, for fear of hitting you." Runa Igarashi was extremely excited to receive this evaluation. Maybe this car isn't hers, but she will drive it sooner or later. It's not that she will definitely buy one if she makes money, but because she likes to be Kurosawa's driver. Ha ha ha. Kurosawa Hikaru also noticed this, and thinking back on it, he just thought it was awe-inspiring. This is the first time he has driven such a good car. Although he has driven in Siphon Jiyuan's future car before, the price of that car is probably not cheaper than his car, and may even be more expensive. But the feeling of riding in a car is completely different from driving in person. Just talking about taking a car, in fact everyone has taken a luxury car, such as trams and Shinkansen, and the cost of those things is not ordinary expensive. Seeing the way he laughed, Ninomiya Chizuru realized that he liked it very much and smiled slightly. It didn't take long for the dishes to be served in the restaurant. As they ate dinner, both Igarashi Runa and Ninomiya Chizuru took off their masks. This scene also attracted the side glances of people sitting nearby. Because their appearance is so good, if the appearance of a person is compared to that of a car, it would be equivalent to a humanoid supercar. Although there were two beauties, there were boys present after all, so nothing like striking up a conversation happened. In fact, there are some people who are just ready to make a move. After all, even if Chizuru Ninomiya wears a wig and colored contact lenses, her foundation is so good that she is still incredibly beautiful. As for Igarashi Runa, not to mention, as a short-haired beauty, she is rare. What's more, she is also a super beauty, huge, and has an indescribable attraction to boys. However, some people heard that Kurosawa Hikaru came in a super luxury car and could only stop. Because it was late, they finished eating quickly. I feel like I'm going to have to wear a wig next time, I hope I don't get recognized. On the way out of the restaurant to the parking lot, Igarashi Runa couldn't help but worry. Buy some long hair ones, I haven't seen you with long hair in a long time. Chizuru Ninomiya, who was holding Kurosawa's arm, found that she also wanted to buy a wig for daily disguise, which was very welcome. She originally liked doing various things with Runa, and she had already experienced that the camouflage effect of wearing a wig was extremely powerful. You can buy it if you want, but next time you eat, just find some restaurants with private rooms, or go to some higher-end restaurants. Kurosawa Hikaru always felt that wearing a wig all the time was not an option, so he suggested. With the help of wigs, Sister Kinhee can change her look every day, and she doesn't have to worry about being remembered no matter what she does. But he and Miss Runa both showed their true colors to others. Even though Hikaru Kurosawa is not well known in a metropolitan city like Tokyo, and not many people can recognize him, there are still some. Through Bayu's words, he knew that he was quite famous in various universities now. Because in the archery competition, his performance was so eye-catching, the key is that he is very handsome. I know several restaurants frequented by entertainers and wealthy owners. Let's go there next time. Igarashi Runa thought about it and it was right. Today is not what it used to be. People have to move forward. For the sake of privacy, changes must be made. While talking, they also walked to their respective cars one after another and drove away. At the same time, at the convenience store not far away, there were a few more motorcycles. Aoi, the owner of that Maybach, could it be Kurosawa? In front of the motorcycle, Hinata opened her windbreaker and wore no bottoming clothes, exposing her chest and abdominal muscles. She watched the Maybach leave. She recovered from the shock and wondered if she had seen it wrong. It must be Kurosawa, why is he with Miss Igarashi? Chuyukui is wearing a cool chest-wrapped vest, paired with a yellow-orange ultra-thin sun protection suit, and ultra-short hot pants, revealing her sexy slim waist and snow-white legs. She looks young, beautiful, fashionable, and hot. Sitting on a motorcycle above, he was also extremely shocked. The team of delinquents in front of the convenience store turned out to be Hinata's friends. They gathered here on motorcycles, waiting for everyone to gather and go racing together. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 493. Yuto, Sister Aoi, do you know the guy driving the luxury car? Hearing their words, a bad girl with several earrings next to them was a little curious. Just now, they were squatting at the door of the convenience store waiting for everyone to gather. When they saw the silver and black luxury car, they were shocked. Especially when they saw a gentle and elegant and fair-skinned super handsome guy coming out of the luxury car, they were stunned on the spot. They just felt that they were from two different worlds. I never thought that Hinata Yuto and Akazuki Aoi seemed to know that guy, they actually knew such a powerful person. Isn't this too powerful? Akazuki Aoi didn't say anything, but watched the Maybach go away. If you ask her if she knows Kurosawa, she knows him very well, after all, he is her best friend's boyfriend. But the Kurosawa Hikari she met this time made her feel very unfamiliar. Driving a luxury car worth tens of millions, with two beautiful sisters with good figures and excellent temperament, even wearing masks, they are still stunning. What's more, there was a beautiful sister who was holding Kurosawa's arm, looking very intimate. She and Hinata arrived 10 minutes ago, but they were still waiting for others to sneak out of their homes to gather. That's why she waited on the roadside with everyone, and naturally talked about the luxury car across the road. Maybe no one knew it, but she recognized it. It was a Maybach, not an ordinary Mercedes. Aoi. Hinata Yuto was a boy after all, and he had a strong ability to adapt. He felt bad when he came to his senses. He felt that he had accidentally discovered something very incredible. Maybe Kurosawa Hikaru was only busy chatting with the two beauties who were traveling with him and didn't notice them, but he and Aoi seemed to have discovered Kurosawa's cheating scene. Calm down, the girl holding Kurosawa's arm might be his sister. If the relationship between siblings is good, it is normal to walk together on the street with arms around each other. Akizuki Aoi forced herself to calm down, unwilling to believe it, and found a decent one for herself. She had a good impression of Kurosawa, not the kind of emotion between men and women, but as a friend, or even admiration. Since she met Kurosawa, she has really opened her eyes and learned what a truly excellent person looks like. A student from the University of Tokyo, he works as a tutor before graduation, earning 20,000 per hour, singing very well, and is also good at archery, even the best in the country. He is humorous, gentle, and considerate, and ambitious. He can be called a model of a perfect boyfriend. In the hot girl group, whether it is herself, Lan, or Tong, they often tease Yuki and use her perfect boyfriend as a topic, and they are extremely envious. It is precisely because this impression is too good that she is unwilling to admit the fact even if there is ironclad evidence. Because once she determines that Kurosawa is cheating, it means disillusionment. Yes, they both have black hair, and they are very likely siblings. Hinata Yuto's admiration for Kurosawa Hikaru is also extremely eager. He is unwilling to believe that he is the kind of person who would cheat, and nods frantically in agreement. The bad group next to them saw their conversation and facial expressions and realized that something was wrong. They were also tactful and did not ask, waiting for them to finish their communication first. At the same time, Akizuki Aoi pulled out her phone from the pocket of her shorts and sent a private message to Yuki Ichinos. She didn't ask directly in the group. Although she was rebellious and liked to play with bad guys, she was a rich girl after all and knew the importance of things. Aoi, Yuki, does Kurosawa have a sister? Yuki, no. I don't know, I haven't asked. Aoi, ask Kurosawa if he has a sister. Yuki, what's wrong? You suddenly ask this. Aoi, it's okay, I'm just curious. Yuki, then I'll ask later. Aoi, aren't you with Kurosawa? Yuki, today is Thursday, Kwang brother has to work. Work. Akizuki Aoi saw this message, stopped moving, frowned. Her heart was extremely shaken. To be honest, she felt that she was close to the truth. Yuki had been dating Kurosawa for more than a year, but she didn't know whether Kurosawa had a sister. You can imagine the tricks involved. She heard Yuki mention Kurosawa's working hours, Tuesday and Thursday. It was clearly working time, but Kurosawa Hikaru was eating outside with a beautiful sister arm in arm. Although it was not a date alone, and Miss Igarashi was accompanying them, a boy and a girl walking arm in arm together, if they were not siblings, they could only be a couple. What should I do? Hinata Yuto turned his head to see their chat, and after being silent, he became uneasy. As a man, he understands men better. Although he and Aoi have a good relationship and can be said to be old friends at first sight and have been dating until now, men are more fickle. He had fantasies about other girls, but he just didn't put them into action. Because his girlfriend has a strong personality, if he dares to cheat, Aoi will definitely make him pay. Putting this matter aside, with Ichino's reply and Aoi's clever test, he can already confirm, the scene he saw just now was definitely the scene of Kurosawa's cheating. I don't know. Akazuki Aoi held the phone tightly in both hands, her body trembling slightly, at a loss. How deep Yuki's love for Kurosawa is can be seen with the naked eye. As soon as Yuki mentioned her brother Hikaru, it was like a switch was turned on, Balabla couldn't stop talking, the love, pride, and happy and sweet smile were enviable. It's hard to imagine how Yuki would react if she knew that her brother Guang said he wanted to work but was actually dating other women. The sky is falling, which is an understatement. In short, in her opinion, once Yuki finds out about this, the consequences will be disastrous. Thinking of this, Chiyukoi's mind was very confused. For a while, she even ignored Master 0 Hour's manager, why Miss Igarashi would have dinner with Kurosawa. Kurosawa? Hinata Yuato said to himself in his heart, his mood was very complicated. If possible, he would rather not see the scene just now tonight. His relationship with Ichino's is not that deep. After all, they are his girlfriend's best friends, and their relationship is just that. Smart people know to keep their distance. Compared to this, his feelings for Kurosawa can be described as worship. Ever since he met Kurosawa, he even had a dream in which he experienced Kurosawa's life and saw the world from his perspective. At a friend's party at KTV, he showed off his singing skills and his singing level was comparable to that of professional singers. He directly held a solo concert and stole the show. On a huge stage like the Neon Martial Arts Hall, wearing a Kyoto uniform and holding a bow, he attracted cheers from the audience. He defeated players from all over the country and won the championship with unparalleled style. And tonight, Kurosawa drove away in a super luxury car that he might never be able to drive in his life. Mature, handsome, smart, rich, talented, humorous, well-spoken, extraordinary temperament, gentle and elegant, good at both civil and military affairs, and he can also do photography, makeup, he can do everything. At the same time, Ichino's house, bedroom. Quay rarely asks me about Brother Guang, why would you suddenly ask about this? Yuki Ichino's was doing some exercise, standing by the wall, raising one leg high, standing on one foot, doing splits against the wall, holding the mobile phone in his hand, looking at the silence, and feeling confused. Maybe her high school grades were unsatisfactory, but that doesn't mean she's not smart. Because she was an honors student before she abandoned her studies. Although her grades were not top-notch in the entire school or grade, she was among the best in the class. Aoi and Hinata sometimes go out racing at night. Could it be that they accidentally met Hikari-sen with other girls? After carefully reviewing the chat history and pondering over it for a while, Yuki Ichino's expression suddenly changed and she stopped doing the splits against the wall. How is it possible? Today is Thursday. Brother Guang should be tutoring her in her future home in Sifenjayuan. Moreover, although Sifenjayuan is tall in the future, her appearance is not very mature. Standing next to Brother Guang, it is absolutely impossible for her to be recognized as her sister. Didn't Brother Guang go to tutoring class today, to be with Miss Ninomiya? After thinking for a while, Yuki Ichino's thought of a possibility. Realizing this situation, she thought about it for a while, then picked up her phone and sent a message to Aoi. Brother Guang said he has a sister. She knew that Brother Guang had several girlfriends, but her friends didn't know. If this matter were discovered by everyone, it would be difficult to handle. Real. The message was quickly responded to, but Autumn Moonflower's reaction was very suspicious. Can I still have a holiday? Faced with her confirmation, Ichino's Yuki asked after thinking about it. No, we must find a way to solve this matter. Once everyone thinks that Brother Guang is cheating, it will definitely be embarrassing for her and brother Guang to attend multiple couples gatherings in the future. This is not only for brother Guang, but also for herself. On the other side, 3 cars followed each other, and finally drove into the underground garage of a villa. This is the villa he bought for you. It's really luxurious. After parking the car in the garage and walking down, Igarashi Runa looked at the environment of the garage and couldn't help but sigh. How luxurious a villa is depends not on the ground, but on the underground garage. Sister he thinks the garage of this villa is big enough and likes it very much. Kurosawa Hikaru knew why she said that and couldn't help laughing. You obviously chose the villa, what does it have to do with me? At the same time, Chizuru Ninomiya, who was not as skilled as them and was still reversing the car, opened the window and heard their conversation, and immediately felt embarrassed. Faced with her excuse, Kurosawa Hikaru did not refute. He did choose this villa, but he chose this villa because he saw Chizuru's reaction when he came to the underground garage. As for the environment and layout of the villas, they are basically the same. All facilities are complete and the space is spacious. There is not much to say. He even lives in an apartment very comfortably, let alone a villa. He must be satisfied with everything he looks at. Tokyo's Most Affectionate. Author, Wodada Shuchu Wujin. Chapter 494. The entrance to the convenience store next to the family restaurant. It seems Kurosawa really has a sister. Akizuki Aoi chatted with Ichi-no's Yuki for a while and let out a long sigh of relief. I just said that since they have the same hair color, they should be siblings. Hinata Yuoto also relaxed a lot, as if he had been given a new lease of life. Akizuki nodded, forcing herself not to think too much, but to believe what Yuki said. If she really broke into Kurosawa's cheating scene, she really didn't know what to do. She was not human inside and out. It's not true if you say it, and it's not true if you don't say it. Having said that, Yuki might be heartbroken and unable to recover. Needless to say, Yuki was kept in the dark, and sooner or later he would find out, and it would not end well. In addition, Kurosawa also helped them, such as getting them tickets to the odd-hour recital. Because of this, rather than questioning, she would rather believe that Kurosawa really has a sister and is not a playboy. This would be better for everyone. When buying a house, you need to open a house first. This was not the first time for Kurosawa Hikaru to come here. Even though it was after Chizuru moved, some personal belongings had been added to the house, but the large villa of several hundred square meters had a very spacious space and the changes were not big. A villa is a villa, it's really big. Taking the elevator from the underground garage to the first floor, Runa Igarashi followed to the living room, looked around and liked it very much. Because of the discount provided by the real estate agency, before moving, we hired a cleaning company to clean the house from inside to outside. The house was as clean as new inside and outside. It's not good if the house is too big. Living alone is a bit lonely. Ninomiya Chizuru liked her very much when he saw her, and also hinted to her to move over quickly. Kinzuru, you look just like those rich people in Versailles. Igarashi Runa looked at her teasingly. I asked you to move here quickly so it won't be deserted. Seeing that she didn't understand, Ninomiya Chizuru simply spoke up. I have been working a lot recently, so I always live in the office and wait until later to move. Igarashi Runa naturally guessed what she meant, smiled, and waved her hand. During the conversation, Ninomiya Chizuru just glanced at Kurosawa and did not invite him to move over. She thought about it. If Kurosawa really lived with her and spent the night outside, she was not stupid. She didn't need to think twice to know that Kurosawa spent the night with other girls. Properly setting aside personal space is the most correct way for couples to get along. This is Miss Runa's first time here. Let's show her around first. Kurosawa Hikaru did not get involved in this topic, and tacitly understood it. He just looked around and suggested. After that, they walked up the stairs. Maybe there is an elevator, which is beneficial to the elderly, but in terms of efficiency, it is faster to walk only for a few floors. After a brief stroll around, Igarashi Runa came here for the first time, which was quite new. In this room, I can buy an extra piano for Kurosawa to keep in the future for practicing. This room is so long. If you decorate it, it would be good to use it as a gym. This room can be turned into a study room for reading. Because it was a good friend's house, Igarashi Runa was very polite and gave various suggestions. She knew very well that Kinzuru was the kind of person who didn't enjoy life. If she didn't help with suggestions, so many rooms would probably be empty and abandoned, and there would be no way they could be fully utilized. Isn't it okay to read in the living room? Ninomiya Chizuru was a little surprised. She dedicated a room to reading books, wondering if she was overkill. Tisk, 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 if you have children in the future, you won't be able to calm down while reading in the living room. Igarashi Runa looked at her, as if to say you don't understand, and explained. Indeed. Ninomiya Chizuru thought about it and felt it made sense. She thought about her experience of visiting a relative's house, where several children were noisy and jumping up and down, making it difficult to calm down. She prefers reading and really needs a study room. Child. When Kurosawa Hikaru heard this, he couldn't help but glance at Sister Kinhee beside him, and thought to himself. Unlike Xiaoyuki, Bayu, and Mirai, these three girls are still in school. It is too early for them to have children. Sister Kinhee has long since left school. Many women of her age are married and have families and are mothers. Maybe it was inspired by the concept of making cooked rice from raw rice, or maybe she didn't have any worries. Sister Kinhee didn't let him take any protective measures that night. After walking around one floor after another, they came down from the third floor. In fact, this villa is said to have 4 floors, including the underground garage floor. The underground garage is quite spacious, with 2 utility rooms and a toilet. The first floor is the living room, kitchen, dining table area, pantry, entrance hall, and toilet. The space is very spacious. There are 4 rooms on each floor on the second and third floors. According to Igarashi Runa's plan, the various rooms on the second floor are used as bedrooms, while the third floor is planned as a rarely used gym for training. Piano room, laundry room. The bedroom should not be placed on a high floor, because the bedroom is a room that will definitely be used every day. Even if there is an elevator, even if the floor is not high, going up and down can save a lot of effort and time all year round. The house is still very empty, and there are not many things. When I am done with my work and have some free time, let's move the things here and go shopping together. Igarashi Runa is very good at living, but she feels that this house does not have enough life. Okay. Kurosawa Hikaru saw that she hadn't moved in yet, so he made bold arrangements for various decorations. He felt that she really helped save a lot of effort. The 3 of us were quite lively together. We arrived at the villa around 9 o'clock and chatted until about 11 o'clock. I'm going back to the office first. Seeing this time, Igarashi Runa saw that it was almost time and planned to leave. It's better to stay the night tonight. Although the rooms are not decorated, the beds and bedding are all new. Seeing that she was leaving, Ninomiya Chizuru also invited her. I didn't bring a change of clothes. I followed Kurosawa everywhere during the day to shoot, and I sweated a lot. I have to go back and change clothes. Igarashi Runa shook his head and had no intention of staying the night. Okay, what about you? Seeing that she had a reason, Ninomiya Chizuru couldn't force her to stay, so she just looked at Kurosawa. For this reason, Kurosawa may also want to leave. I have been wearing the same clothes from 0 time during the day. I took a shower and changed clothes at the office in the evening. Kurosawa Hikaru noticed the reluctance in her eyes and found that she had no intention of expelling the guest, so he immediately said. In fact, when he decided to pick up the car last night, he had already thought through today's arrangements. Under such circumstances, if he wanted to leave, he would probably be out of his mind. Why would he leave? Wouldn't it be nice to live with his girlfriend? Oh. When Ninomiya Chizuru heard this, she also understood what he meant, and felt a little embarrassed and blushing for no reason. It was clear that Kurosawa was not leaving tonight, but was staying. Men and women who have just started dating are always very hungry and thirsty. They have tasted the beauty and taste of love. It can be said that they know the taste after eating the marrow, and they only think about a few things in their minds. This principle is the same whether it is a man or a woman. What's more, girls are even more enthusiastic than boys after tasting the forbidden fruit for the first time. It's just that most girls, under the influence of their upbringing, are more reserved, or can be said to be sultry. Kurosawa, we have schedules tomorrow, remember to go to bed early, there is no need to send you off. Seeing the ambiguous eye contact between them, Igarashi Runa felt a little restless, then smiled and stood up. She was not jealous, but excited and looking forward to it. After all, she had to leave so late and went back to live in the office just to give them a chance to be alone. The relationship is so familiar that there is no need for any farewells or farewells. After all, it is just like home, and you can come and go freely. Are you hungry? How about I feed you some? Seeing Igarashi Runa walking into the elevator, Kurosawa Hikaru turned around and looked at Chizuru beside him, and made a sly remark. I'm not hungry, I just moved here and I didn't buy any ingredients like noodles. Are you hungry? However, due to cultural differences, Ninomiya Chizuru didn't understand, shook her head and asked. Not to mention noodles, she didn't even buy rice. When she lived alone, she ate very casually. She basically went to a convenience store to buy some fast food, or she ordered takeout. Ha ha ha. Seeing that she didn't understand, Kurosawa Hikaru touched the back of his head, feeling a little embarrassed. It seems that if I want to sleep with Sister Kinhee tonight, I have to find a more suitable reason, but it is not difficult. In the underground garage, Igarashi Runa got into her car. This Kurosawa has slept with Kinzuru, why hasn't he thought of taking off my coat? She glanced at the two cars next to her and couldn't help but mutter to herself. A man and a woman alone, a raging fire, and a loving couple, alone together, you can imagine what will happen in this villa tonight with your toes. She and Kurosawa spent the night at the office last night because there was too much work piled up. They read one plan after another and had constant discussions. In addition, they had to wait for calls from Penguin and Apple. However, after finishing the selection of project proposals last night, it was time for Kurosawa to go to bed. After taking a shower, he went back to his room and could not come out. Although she was Lausiji and was proficient in all kinds of driving skills, she was just a talkative king. She wilted when faced with real combat. She hesitated for a long time and did not dare to knock on the door. Obviously last night we were all alone, just like tonight, but the result was nothing. It's definitely not that I'm not charming enough, it's just that he's not in a hurry and thinks it's inappropriate. He has to wait for a suitable time, just like that night. After thinking for a while, Igarashi Runa looked at her beautiful face and tall and proud chest through the rearview mirror, and convinced herself. No, I have to seduce him next time. As she convinced herself, Igarashi Runa suddenly became a little angry, turned into gear, and drove away. This Kurosawa Hikaru, he has so many girlfriends, so naturally he is not in a hurry, but the problem is that she is. You know, she has been single for 28 years and has finally fallen in love. She is too greedy for Kurosawa's body. She didn't bother to care about the timing or the atmosphere. She wanted to eat meat.